What if some of the characters we've met along the Digimon Ghost Game journey united to form a dark parallel team to face our main trio of Ghost Game Tamers? Digimon Ghost Game has introduced a ton of amazing human characters that have only really mattered for one episode before never being referenced again, and a lot of these characters have had complex relationships with Digimon. It wouldn't be fair to call these characters traditional Digimon Tamers or Digidestined, but even our main characters in Ghost Game, Hiro, Ruri, and Kyoshiro, they aren't really traditional chosen children, but instead characters with unique relations to Digimon, thus making them not that different than the other kids we've met. Ghost Game viewers have often expressed a desire to see the show tackle stories that require more than one episode to tell, and there are several characters in past episodes I thought had potential to come back, so as a fun exercise in what if pitching, I want to share a story with you about a dark Digidestined arc, how Digimon Ghost Game's back half could reintroduce a ton of characters and set up a journey into the digital world. Worth noting, this is not necessarily a theory video. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Consider this a pitch for an alternate universe where Digimon Ghost Game did want to tell a more overarching story. So let's talk about who these Dark Digidestined would be and what it is they want. I've identified 3 for the Dark Digidestined team. I think 3 is perfect to mirror our main Ghost Game trio. These are all humans who have had Digimon abruptly pulled away from them for various reasons at the end of their episode, and in our story, these humans have united with the common goal of entering the digital world to meet their lost Digimon once again. Some will have noble reasons to see their Digimon again, and some will have more nefarious reasons. Let's start with the most nefarious human in our dark trio, the amateur scientist who had captured Morphmon from episode 23. In this episode, Digimon across the world were attacking humans after being infected by some kind of transmission from a Morphmon sending out an SOS signal. The Morphmon was playing on the internet when it was captured by a human. At the end of the episode, we met the human in question. It wasn't a member of a shady government organization like Hypnos, but instead a strange young woman sitting in a computer desk. She had Morphmon imprisoned on her screen in some kind of application. She stared at her finding and said, "What is this intelligent life form? Is it an AI or maybe?" Either way, it's a big discovery. No one will call me an amateur scientist now. This girl had big Digimon Emperor vibes, with her not seeming to understand the seriousness of the situation, that this was a living creature that she'd imprisoned. Clockmon ended up breaking into her room, terrifying her and stealing the computer that held Morphmon and thus freeing the poor Digimon. The amateur scientist is now, of course, in a state where Morphmon, her big discovery that she believed was going to earn her respect and praise in the scientific community, was ripped away from her. She also saw another digital creature in the flesh when Clockmon broke into her room to free Morphmon, but she has no evidence or information about either being. If she tried to tell the scientific community about Morphmon or Clockmon without any evidence, she would become an even bigger laughingstock and further cast out of the scientific world. And this is why her motivation would be to find a way into the digital world to once again capture Morphmon and prove her discovery to the world. Next, let's cover the second member of our Dark Digidestined team. This is a human who is a lot more sympathetic and in fact was kind of the victim in his episode, but he is so good-natured and a sense of survivor's guilt would cause him to try and bring back the lost Digimon. I'm talking about Yuto from episode 24, the young botanist who Agitarmon obsessed over, seemingly fell in love with, and after our main trio stopped her from transforming Yuto into a Digimon so that they could be together forever, Agitarmon kind of self-deleted itself in front of Yuto's eyes. I want to be very clear, Yuto was the victim here, but what struck me in episode 24 was the way that Yuto ran to embrace Agitarmon just before the Digimon burst into a cloud of data. Yuto is incredibly compassionate and likable, which I think is a great trait to have on a team of Dark Digidestined. We want to feel that at least one of them is a good kid that has fallen down the wrong path and that he can be saved. In the time since episode 24, we'll say that Yuto has been having nightmares about Agitarmon's death and blames himself. Either through discussion with Hiro or Gammamon, he'll have learned that Digimon can be reborn as Digi-Eggs and will seek out a way to enter the digital world to find the reincarnated Agitarmon to try and do things the right way this time, to have a traditional Digimon and human partnership with Agitarmon that isn't this predatory or one-sided relationship. The third member of our Dark Digidestined trio will be a character who falls somewhere in between Yuto and the amateur scientist on the morality scale. That is Kyono from episode 30. Now I know what you're thinking. If you saw that episode, you're saying, well wait, she was reformed at the end of that episode. Yes, she had a bit of a breakthrough that helped her get over the self-set isolation and real hatred of humans in her life, but keep in mind her partners in crime from that week, Manzaimon and ex-Tyrannomon, they did leave her and go away with Manzaimon at the end of that episode. So last we saw, she's basically all alone again. Kyono struck me as quite a complex character and also visually had such a great design and look that it would be a tragedy to only use her in one episode. So what I'm proposing is that she experiences a relapse and believes those intrusive thoughts that led her to think the outside world wanted to hurt her were the truth. Without her Digimon friends or her human friends around, she goes back to hating humans and wants to reunite with the only two beings that ever made her feel good, those being Manzaimon and ex-Tyrannomon. Ghost Game is sometimes criticized for how it conveniently wraps up intense plot concepts in 22 2 minutes. Kyono won the battle, overcoming her anxiety and depression that week, but I think it would be kind of subversive and break the Ghost Game formula to say, hey, you know what, actually a punch fest in Act 3, it did make Kyono feel better for a few days, but actually the world is still kind of awful to her and life is very difficult for her, especially with no partners to lean on. She also had some unresolved tension with Ruli and would perhaps be jealous that Ruli has a Digimon as well as Hiro and Kiyoshiro to lean on, so Kyono would seek out a team of her own, or at least be easily persuaded to join one if somebody approached her. So Kyono would join Yuto and the scientist girl in wanting to find their Digimon once again. We'll imagine that Kyono's Digimon returned to the digital world at some point. Maybe they hitched a ride back with Black Tailmon, since we've seen it has the ability to send Digimon home, just so that we can have all three of our Dark Digidestined looking to access the digital world. So now we have our candidates for the Dark Digidestined trio. They all want to find their lost Digimon. I have an idea for how the story would play out, but before I tell you that, I do want to tell you about how you can get 2,000 yen off of anime merch with today's sponsor, Bai. Bai is a proxy shipping service, which means they make all kinds of Japanese exclusive merch available to you wherever you are on planet Earth. All of the toys and games I used to see online but knew I could never have growing up in rural Canada, those days are a thing of the past with sites like Bai, who are letting fans all over the world shop on Amazon storefronts like Rakuten, Mercari, and Amazon JP. You select what you want, then Bai basically buys it on your behalf and sends it to you wherever you are. So whether you want retro games or new games like Digimon Survive, you want vintage toys, figures from the 90s, or brand new model kits, Bai is an amazing option for acquiring all of those things. There's even a special offer for viewers of this channel. If you sign up to Bai for the first time using the link in my description, you're going to be getting a 2,000 yen coupon for your first order. That's around $20 off an order just for signing up and just for being a fan of this channel. If that doesn't sound like an amazing deal to you, again, I have to ask,
what's wrong with you?
Jokes aside, thanks to Bai for sponsoring the video. Now back to the discussion. All of the humans we've selected have some knowledge about digital monsters and some understanding that there is another world that they occupy. So my idea is that a nefarious Digimon, possibly Myotismon or Matadormon, or both, are manipulating these humans, luring them into the digital world with the promise of finding their lost partners. The reason I say Myotismon or Matadormon is because Dracmon was on their team before he was betrayed by them in episode 25, but in episode 3 of Ghost Game, Dracmon said something that initially gave me the idea for Dark Digidestined. He wanted Ruli and Hiro to lend their power to him so that he could materialize and become more powerful, like how humans typically can help their Digimon partners digivolve. He said that if our main characters wouldn't help him materialize, that maybe he would just have to find some other humans who would. Even though Dracmon is gone, I think Myotismon may still be alive. Last we saw, he burst into a cloud of bats, and Matadormon got away, so those two could subscribe to the same beliefs as Dracmon. They want to use humans and their connection with Digimon as some kind of battery bank to power them up. In our what if story, the three humans are identified by Myotismon and Matadormon and led into the digital world with the promise of meeting their Digimon again. Hiro and the gang will learn that these people they've met in their past adventures have now stumbled into the very dangerous digital world, and fearing the worst for them, the Ghost Game trio finally leaves the human world setting behind in order to enter the digital world. It's gonna be a rescue mission to get the Dark Digidestined, really Kyono and Yuto mainly, back home safely, and also to get the scientist girl to come to her senses and realize that Digimon aren't just playthings. Eventually, we'll find the Dark Digidestined. They'll have found their partners, but they're all kind of possessed or under the spell of Myotismon and Matadormon. It's the only reason Morphmon would even consider working with a scientist girl after all, considering she kidnapped her before. Myotismon and Matadormon will have found a way to benefit from the power generated by the kids' connection to their respective Digimon, just like Dracmon suggested was possible. Now, our trio of humans plus Gammamon, Jellymon, and Angoramon have to face off against the Dark Digidestined team, Agitarmon, Morphmon, Warumanzaimon, X-Tyrannomon, plus Matadormon and Myotismon. It'd be a great opportunity to showcase Bloom Lordmon, an evolution for Agitarmon that I love, and even Shin Monzaimon, the new Monzaimon evolution revealed recently for the 25th anniversary of the VPET. Kyono and Yuto could be broken free of the spell and come to their senses earlier than the scientist girl, joining the good guys team and having those evolutions to Bloom Lordmon and Shin Monzaimon be the result of their relationships with their Digimon finally becoming genuine and not toxic. At this point, the tables have turned. The good guys now outnumber the amateur scientist, Myotismon and Matadormon. When the dust settles, the scientist finally realizes that Digimon are living things and this isn't a game or a computer program, and they all get to return home with their Digimon partners. It might be a little weird for Morphmon to go back with the scientist considering how cruel she originally was to her, but if you think about Ken and Wormmon, he was kind of nasty, so maybe there's some way that throughout this story, their relationship becomes not so toxic. Hopefully all of that wasn't too rambly or fan fiction-y to you. I'm still new to the what if thing, but I do like the idea of of the digital world storytelling, commencing by a team of amateur humans with more toxic relations with Digimon, and who are all dealing with loss in one form or another, kind of stumbling into the digital world first, and then having our main characters essentially pull them back from the edge of the abyss and teaching them what healthy relationships with Digimon can look like through their partnerships with Gammamon, Angoramon, and Jellymon. With Yuto, Kyono, and the scientist girl returning, as well as Myotismon and Matadormon, and Dracmon's idea for using the humans to power up Digimon, this Dark Digidestined story arc would make past episodes of Ghost Game feel a little more important, cementing that they were building blocks to this story that would take anywhere from 3 to 10 episodes to tell in its entirety, giving fans the overarching storytelling they wanted from Ghost Game. So there it is, that's my Dark Digidestined what if story. Let me know in the comments what other humans and what other digital monsters from Ghost Game would you think deserve to come back, and how you would reintegrate them into the story of Ghost Game. Thanks for watching, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.